Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So we are actually, this week the Sedra is vaYak'hel, and very often it's combined with Pekudei, but this year, the way the calendar works out, we separate these particular portions. So we're almost finished with reading vaYak'hel, and so here we are, you'll see. So, Vayas et hakior, nechoshet. So he made the laver of brass or copper, ve'et kano nechoshet, and its base made out of copper or brass, b'marot hatzovot, with the mirrors of the women who gathered around, asher tzavu, who gathered petach, at the opening, at the entrance, Ohel Moed, of the tent of meeting. We actually read a wonderful, wonderful Rashi on this right here. See, we did that. I went back to there just because it's been a while since we've done this. And so we had read this whole thing here about why the Torah goes into that detail, that it was made out of the mirrors of the women. And so I'm going to let you look back at the previous lesson, and there you'll find it. At any rate, we hadn't finished the entire Rashi, so this is where we left it last time. V'chein matzinu v'Yeshayahu. Okay, so here we go. What he's trying to do is here, he's talking about the word, this word marot, which translates as mirrors here, right? Here, Tirgum shel marot, miroir, right, in Old French, Belashon, right? Spiegel is the German or the Yiddish for mirror. V'chein matzinu b'Yeshayahu, and so we find in the book of Isaiah, it's actually Isaiah 3:23, v'hagil yonim, right? Hagil yonim, metargaminan, we translate this word hagil yonim. I believe it's Hagil Yonim. Could be Agal Yonim. I'm looking. No, it's Hagil Yonim. We translate as Machazita, right? Machazita would be something you look into, right? So, in other words, he translates that also. Our Onkelos translates that as well as a mirror. So here we go. And here's the word here, mechzian, mechzian.
Here it says mechziata.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That does look right, actually. Yeah, merci yata. Thank you. Achsher tzavu. So he says, why were they gathering around there? Lahavi nidvehen, or nidivatan, to bring their gifts, because this is, of course, still discussing the construction of the tabernacle. And let's see if there's any left there, any Rashi left. Okay, no, that's it for the Rashi on this particular Parsha. And this is the last little section. Vayas et hechatzer, and he made the courtyard. Lifat negev temana, so on the side, the south, negev temana basically means the same thing, right? On the southern side, kal e hechatzer, the hangings of the courtyard, shesh moshzar, of twisted linen. Sometimes the shesh, I guess, is understood as being fine linen, fine twisted linen. Me'av ba'ama, 100 cubits. And I'm going to see if I can, tell me if you can now see this. Can you see the picture of the courtyard now? Did I switch it around for you?
We
Let
do
me know.
see it, yes.
Good, excellent. Okay, I can't always tell if that
And
happens.
there are a lot more verses and some more
Yeah,
Rashi.
there is. But I wanted you to see the picture of the courtyard, right? So we're talking about this. This would have been the west side, if you can see my cursor. This would have been the east side. So the south side would be the side, this side here, right? And 100 cubits. If a cubit is approximately 18 inches, we're talking about 150 feet. Okay. So 150 feet long. We're going to get the dimensions of this. I'm going to show you a picture of the hangings a little bit more clearly. So here you have a clearer picture of it and how they hung. So it looks as if, so this particular detail here, I'm not certain if it was required just for the model or whether it was actually in the construction of the tabernacle. This doesn't feel, honestly, that this is part of the original tabernacle, the part that I'm pointing at. And that in fact, the posts were held up, as you can see, these guy ropes here. And they would have held these up very carefully, and then it would have allowed the linen to stretch because it doesn't look as if necessarily there was any bar or anything there. But you can see how the corner would have had to work there. And I'm going to give you some more here from the inside, looking at it from the inside. And here we're going to see the posts. We're going to talk about the posts. These are the bands. They talk about the bands that are around them. And these are the adanim, right? These are these sockets that they put them in. And these are the top parts of the band. And here in color is a color picture of the tabernacle as it finally was set up. All right. So north side, south side, west side, east side, and you can see how the tent of meeting was placed right towards the back in this half of the courtyard. And this is the laver, by the way. I can try and make it a little bit bigger. This is a picture of the laver where the priests would wash their hands and their feet before they performed the service. But you can see here a very lovely picture of this. And we're going to refer to this entrance here, which was made out of embroidery. It was embroidered work. And we'll go back into the text at this point. But I did want you to have some visual of what was going on here. Okay, so here we are. So amudim, right? Amudehem, their posts, Isrim 20, right? So there would have been a space of 5, each hanging would have been 5 cubits wide, right? The adnehem and their sockets, Isrim nechoshet. 20 made out of nechoshet. As I said, it either means copper or brass. vaYak'hel, the hooks of the columns, the chashukehem, and their bands, kasef, made out of silver. So let me go back into the picture a little bit. So this is what we're talking about, right? You can see how it's made out of silver, and each one of these had a hook to it. You can't see it very clearly here, but maybe we can see it better here. Let's see. Yep, there's the hook right there, hook. And then they could hang the curtain on that side there. But that's what we're talking about. And a hook in Hebrew is known as a vav, right? So it's quite possible that in ancient Hebrew script it actually looked like a hook. And what's sweet is that, of course, the letter v in front of a word means and. In other words, it serves as a hook between one word and another word. And there's one other little lovely tradition, and that is all but 6 columns in a Sefer Torah, in a written Sefer Torah, starts with the letter Vav. And if you look carefully in the Sefer Torah, you will see that every column, as I said, except for 6 defined columns, start off with a vav. Obviously, the very first column starts off with a bet, with the word Bereshit, but there are 5 other places. There's a play on words because a column of Torah is known as an amud, and so you have the vavei ha'amudim. You have the letter vav of these columns in the Sefer Torah, and there's a play on the words, and I think there's greater significance to that because I think it also, in the sense that the purpose of the tabernacle was to bring humanity closer to the divine and to be a nexus point between the divine and the world and humanity. Likewise, the Torah functions in a very similar way, and so in a way, that Torah, that Sefer Torah, is in its way its own Mishkan for us. So let's go on. So, for example, when we say Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, right, translated loosely as happy are those who dwell in your house, it actually is talking about studying Torah. and practicing the mitzvot, that is, dwelling in God's house. And again, the purpose of this practice is to bring us closer to the divine. All right, so go on. We discussed the south side, right? And let me make sure I've got it. Yes. All right. Ulefa'at, and then in the direction Safon of north, May Abba Ama, likewise. 100 cubits, Amudehem Esrim, their 20 posts, Va'adnehem Esrim Nechoshet, and their sockets, 20 of brass, Va'veha Amudim, right, they're the hooks of the posts, Va'chashukehem Chasef, and their bands, also made out of silver. Amudehem, let's see, sorry, let me make sure I got this, yes. Ulefa'at Yam, and on the west side, Yam referring to the Mediterranean Sea, and in the land of Israel, of course, the Mediterranean Sea is on the west side. So that's simply how Hebrew translates. Kla'im chamishim ba'ama. So here we're talking about 50, not 100, but 50 those sheets, right? Of 50 cubits, right? Amudehem asara, their posts 10, va'adnehem asara, and their sockets 10, vaveha amudim v'chashukehem kasif. And again, the hooks of the posts and their bands made out of silver. So yes, of course, it's repetitive, but the nature of it is, I think there's both the sense that we're giving instructions, that you want your instructions to be clear, but I also think that it also that the very statement of these particular statements tries to approximate the actual construction, even though we're doing it only in our minds, and of course, verbally. Ulefat Kedma, and on the east side, towards the east, Mizracha, Kedma, Mizracha, again, Kedem and Mizrach basically mean the same thing. Chamishim Ama, 50 cubits. So we understand the courtyard was 100 cubits by 50 cubits. In other words, 150 feet approximately by 75 feet, right? Klaim, right? The hangings, Chamesh Esrei Ama. So on one side, El HaKatef. So it means on the shoulder. So 15 cubits on the one side. Amudehem Shlosha. So they had 3 posts, Va'adnehem Shlosha, and 3 sockets. So let me again give you a picture of this. This is what we're talking about. So you see the 3 posts, and this would be 15 cubits on the katef. You can see it's like a shoulder, right? And then the other shoulder, and then you have the entrance right there. So this is what they're describing right now. Let's find the place. Okay. Ulachatef hashenit, and on the other shoulder, mizeh umizeh, on one side and the other, the sh'ar hechatzer, for the gate of the courtyard, klaim chamesh esrei ama, 15 hangings of 15 cubits, amudehem shlosha, their posts 3, va'adnehem shlosha, and their sockets 3. Kol kal'eh hachatzer saviv shesh musar, and all the hangings of the courtyards around about are of fine twisted linen. David, question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So why isn't the entrance like shut? Is it? I mean, they. Why didn't they put it on hinges to actually close it? It looks like it remains open, right? There's a gap, or am I missing
Right.
something?
Right. No. I don't think you are. Remember, hinges wouldn't have worked because basically we're talking about cloth hangings. So it didn't have to be totally closed, but if you looked at it directly from, the east to the west, on that side, you would have just seen a straight line. Let me see if I can show you again. Right, so this is it. I mean, this would be in conjunction with this, right? and then you'd walk in this way. And there may have been, I think, the reason they just couldn't have a door. I think, I love your question because in some ways, we could try to look a little deeper into this and say that possibly the idea of the tabernacle being open and at the same time there's something respectful about not being able to look directly in at the altar and at the tent of meeting. You wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, if you were here, your sight of vision would essentially be in this direction or in that direction, but that
Right.
be open all the time, that there be a sense that it's never really shut off from you, you know. So I think
Yep.
there's something lovely in that symbolism too. And we should not in any way uh think that these things weren't part of the symbolism of what was going on here, because the more one studies this, the more one realizes how much symbolism really there was in all of this. But I think the idea of it being open at this point was something important. Um, I'm trying to visualize the temple at this point, and there was actually a wall between the women's courtyard and the entrance where the altar was and the shrine was, etc. And they talk about the gates. So I don't know that it was, I think from on that inside part, whether or not those gates were ever shut or whether they were open or whatever. I just don't know enough about it to be able to speak with authority about it. But I mean, obviously, you could not use hinges because of the cloths.
Right. Well, yeah, of course. But
Yeah,
well, and yeah, that makes sense. And I think your point about it explains why you have the cloth on the front, but you
right,
don't have sides, so that you can't see directly in, but you can
right,
see from. So
right.
okay, that in terms of the this, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And I
Thank you.
think, oh, of course. And also, I think there's a very important idea that if a person chooses to reach out to God, that it's not ever totally shut off, right? Of course, it can become more difficult if you've lived your life in such a way that you ignore the divine presence, but it's never completely impossible. Let's keep going on this. Let's see if there's anything here. Okay, yep, we did that. Va'adanim la'amudim, right? And the sockets for the posts, the choshet made out of brass, va'vei ha'amudim v'chashukehem chesef, right? The hooks of the posts and their bands of silver, utzefui rashehem kasef, and the tops of the posts should be overlaid with silver. Vehem mechushakim kesef, and again, I think that means they were overlaid with silver. Kol amudei hachatzer, all the posts of the courtyard. So obviously, there's a tremendous amount of repetition here, and again, we'd have to study, the rabbinic sources to get a sense of what the significance was of some of this repetition going on. Umasach shar hechatzer, and the curtain of the gate or the entrance of the courtyard, maaseh rokem, it would be of embroidered work, tchelet, that's blue, v'argaman, and purple, v'tolad shani, and crimson yarns, v'shesh mursar, and twisted, again, fine twisted linen, Ve'esrim ama orech, and it was 20 cubits wide. The koma barochav, and its height, interesting, was a width of chamesh amot, of 5 cubits. Again, 7.5 feet. We can take a quick look at that here. This is what we're talking about here. So remember, this was 15 and 15, so 30. And remember, we said that this width was 50 cubits, so this would be 20 cubits wide. And that's what they're trying to describe here. I don't see any purple offhand, but it could be that the picture has faded in some ways in the course of the years. Almost finished, right? Va'amudehem, and their posts arba'ah, 4 posts, va'adnehem arba'ah nechoshet, and their sockets, 4 sockets of brass, va'vehem, their hooks, kesef of silver, v'tzipui rashehem v'chashukahem kasef, and the overlay of their uh, their tops and their bands of silver, the chol hayidot, and now we go on, and these are the pins, right, lamishkan, that they use for the guy ropes, right? Ulachatzer saviv nechoshet. Those pins, those tent pins, should be made out of brass, and we have completed now the portion of vaYak'hel. So I'm going to stop the share and
There's a
see.
little Rashi on 18.
I think we did a lot of Rashi on 18. I thought
No,
we
there's
did a
just a little Rashi on
little
18.
more. Let me
I
see.
don't recall you doing this one, but
Okay, let me see.
it's just technical.
It's okay. So here is 18. This is what I have. Let's see. I'm not seeing any Rashi here. That's it there. And this is not Rashi here. So you'll have to tell me what that is. This is not Rashi.
It just says corresponding to the meetings of the courtyard means the screen was 5 cubits high
You
because
are right. You are right. Here it is. There's the Rashi. Forgive me. You are right, Lauren. Thank you. Right for a change, right? Okay, yes, thank you. Thanks. Umat kal ehachatzel. Um, is corresponding, I would say, to the hangings of the courtyard. This is, of course, referring to the entrance screen. Kamidat kal ehachatzer. So leumat. Sorry about that. I may have to. Let's see. There we go. All right. So he says this word leumat, which means, in a way, well, corresponding. So here it says, according to the measurements of the hangings of the courtyard. So I'll have to add the share. So let me do this. I'm going to stop the share and go in here. So let's just do this. 1 second, and here we are. Okay, so basically what we're saying is that this height was the same height as this. That it was exactly the same corresponding height. I think that's the point that the Torah is making and that Rashi is explaining for us, that these were all the same height. Although this looks higher. Hmm. 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 Interesting. Okay. I'm going to have to revise my thought. Whether or not it's saying that this height, now I'm thinking about it, because this is clearly higher, right? That this height would correspond to this width. That's what the Torah is trying to say. So this is why one has to review and review and review. Okay. So maybe, I don't know. Have to think about that. But this is clearly higher and it's saying something, right? So this was higher than this. Okay. I may have to give it some more thought as well. Let's see here. Let's see. Although, let's go back here. 18. Koma beruchav chamesh amot. So it does say 5 cubits, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, David?
Yeah, but what would the point of the front being like higher than those 2 sides? I mean, what would the point be? Shouldn't they
Right,
be,
right.
I mean, granted, it means you have more difficulty looking over the top, so to speak. I don't know. It
Well,
doesn't
it
make
would make it more imposing. Okay.
okay, true.
That would be from an architectural point of view. But here's the thing. Um, So what it's saying is that its height and its width. Huh. What doesn't make sense to me is that, of course, the hanging the entrance itself, we said, was 20 cubits wide, right? But if it said that was 5 cubits high, yeah, koma is the height, right? And rochav is the width. But what I don't understand here is that I believe all the other hangings were also 5 cubits high, and that's what's confusing me right now. And if we had a moment, I could go back and see if I could find elsewhere, in the previous parshiot, where, like in Parshat Truma or Tetzaveh, I think it's probably Parshat Truma, where it talks about the hangings and gives the dimensions of the hangings. So something is not computing for me at this particular point, because the diagram is definitely it has to be higher, and yet I'm not sure. So I have to confess ignorance on this. I'll go back and check it out, but I'm pretty sure the all the hangings were five cubits high. So okay. The width would have been 5 too, right? Because 5 times 20 is 100. So, okay. So, any other thoughts before we end today's lesson? Okay.